Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of Dead Money. That's exciting. We're close to 3 weeks into this year's World Series of Poker, so we're very much in full swing with that. It's not quite as busy as I'm used to seeing in the cash games, but still plenty going on. I think at times the games have just been decent, but at others they're very good. But 2-5 is definitely a bit like pizza. Even if it's bad, it's never really that bad. So I got threatened again at the poker table, starting to feel like a routine occurrence. Only this time it was by a dealer, not a player, a dealer. You ever notice how it's a lot easier to get a person to be angry with you than happy? Or maybe that's just a special skill that only I possess. So first, let me tell you what led up to this. This game had been playing kind of tight, and then I bluffed off all the money. I had 3-bet this European-looking girl with ace-queen offsuit. She folded. Then the next hand, a 7-handed, she opens under the gun to 15. I 3-bet again with 10-9 of diamonds, and this time I know she's going to call, so she does. And it comes 8-7-4, 2 clubs and a diamond. All right, not bad. She check calls 70. Turn is the queen of spades, so I brick there. She check calls 2-10. And as she was calling, she was like getting a drink from the waitress or something, or I don't know, maybe she was ordering something. The river is the ace of spades. She checks. I got her covered, and I jam 960, which was close to 1.5x pot, and she snaps with a set of 7s. Not really unhappy about it, though. This whole sequence of action and run out of cards was just very much a perfect storm. The player pool tends to check raise huge hands and 3-bet pots at some point before the river, and usually on the flop, so her line ended up being the absolute perfect play against what my exact 2 cards were. Most often, if she's calling down with pocket 9s through pocket jacks, they're going to be folding river. Queen high flush draws that turn top pair are likely to fold river. And even a bunch of ace high flush draws that river top pair are not going to be happy about seeing a 1.5x jam. So unless she has ace queen of clubs specifically, I wasn't too afraid of anything. Really wasn't worried about this bluff going down, but once in a while someone does slow play a hand in this spot unexpectedly, and she doubled up. So then about 15 minutes later, we get a new dealer, and this man looked to be in his 50s, and I've seen him before. He's of some kind of Middle Eastern descent. He has a slight accent. His name badge had an American name printed on it, but something told me that wasn't his birth-given name. So I was sitting in seat 1 directly on his left, and a few minutes into his down, he suddenly turns to me and says, "Stop pitching the cards at my hands. You've hit my hand twice. I don't want you doing that. Stop touching me with the cards. I'm telling you the nice way." Okay. So over the course of each day, we probably fold close to 200 times each one at least, depending on how long you play, of course. And most often when I fold, I just push them in since they glide across the felt. But sometimes, like everyone else, I'll sort of pick the cards up off the table and, with a very small space between the felt and the cards. Then I cock my wrist a little bit, and then I sort of frisbee it in there. Well, since I was in seat 1 and was right near him, apparently the timing of it all wound up with consecutive occasions in where I threw the cards in, and they caught his hand instead of landing on the felt since they were so close to him when they first became airborne. Now, it's hard to imagine this caused him any genuine discomfort since the cards, in spite of having a razor-thin edge, are rather light. Now, when he was going on like this at first, or really when anyone starts getting provocative and confrontational with me well before they need to, I don't interrupt. Partly because I'm so dumbfounded, and partly because I am already preparing my response. But while I'm loading up my smart-ass shotgun, first, I want to hear everything they've got to say. I'm going to hear it all. So after he's done having his initial canary, capping it off with, "He's telling me the nice way," I said to him, "I would like to see the not nice way." Then he turns to me and says, "Oh, you don't want to see the not nice way." Oh, and his tone became very threatening at this point. I mean, he was acting like he was ready to go right now. And I said to him, I'm like, "Are you threatening me in the box?" And he backs off a little. He's like, "No," he's like, "I'm trying to tell you nicely. Stop pitching the cards at me." And I just laughed and said, "Oh, okay. Wow." And you already know what I did the next time I folded, which I was hoping would be the next hand, and that was at its likeliest to be the case since I was under the gun. In a most exaggerated and mocking fashion, I pushed in each card to him one at a time, very slowly, and then said, "Is this okay? Is this what you want me to do?" Then he said, "Yes, I told you 3 times to not do that." I mean, none of this was any more sensible than what it's like when you're getting into it with a player. I said, "No, you only told me once, and when you did, you said I did it twice. Now you're saying you told me 3 times? I mean, this was only like a minute ago." You know, the most unfun thing about all of these tit-for-tat exchanges is you notice that it's actually quite difficult to be a smartass with someone when you're basically not even having the same conversation. Like, how could I say something funny when everything being said back to me bears almost no relevance to what I just said? And it wasn't even like I was being a smartass technically. All I did was, repeat his own words right back to him. And while he was babbling on some more, I also asked him, do you think I was doing that on purpose? And I don't think he ever addressed that. He didn't really address anything I said, besides when I told him I'd like to see the not nice way, because, like I said, we basically weren't even having the same conversation. Now, as far as me telling him I'd like to be told the not nice way, I know that's a pretty provocative and challenging statement coming from me, and it wouldn't sound good repeating that part of the story to a floor person, but I only said it because I was just kind of fucking with him. I just wanted to see how he would respond to that, because he was being kind of threatening right from the beginning, and that, of course, just made him more threatening. Now, at other times, it seemed like he was trying to stop himself and act somewhat polite, but God, I just lose this huge pot bluffing. And now, 15 minutes later, I'm getting this. I wasn't throwing my cards in with any frustration on purpose, okay? And least of all to irritate the dealer. I was fine. Not feeling good because I just lost a big one, but it did not spill over into anything else I was doing. Golly. Then my initial thought was, okay, I will get a swastika tattooed on my dick before I ever tip this guy another $1. But before he left, I actually changed my mind about that, believe it or not. I tried to have a little empathy. Maybe he's just having a really bad day. I don't know. I was going to report him too, but then I forgot, so I guess it just wasn't that important to me. But after he pushed out, I was thinking to myself that I felt like I took this as far as I should have taken it, and that I didn't beat it to death, and I think I stopped at the right time. And then there was a reg sitting across from me in seat 4. He said the same thing. He said basically what I was thinking word for word. He says, you did the right thing. He's you stopped at the right time. And then he showed me this cartoon photograph on Instagram. It was of this Greek warrior. It said, "In the battle of egos, the loser always wins." Interesting. All right. So one of the most common complaints people have about the World Series of Poker is the epically long tanks players go into to make a decision no matter how big or small. Now, the European players are most notorious for this, and I can certainly attest to that as well. I'd say about 8 years ago, I was on the river against an Italian player. I think I bet $400 or $500, and I had it. And what drove me so nuts about how long he was tanking, and this was a good 5 minutes, which is not only the longest tank I'd ever seen in a hand against me at that point. I mean, it was just way too long for the size he was facing. And of course he folded. But what drove me so nuts about it was the fact that no one would just call clock on him. I wanted to scream clock at the top of my fucking lungs. But since I'm the one he's playing against, I figured it's best if I just keep my mouth shut. But holy shit. Why is everyone such a fucking pussy? Why is everyone so averse to calling time? It's not rude. It's not rude at all. I mean, there simply just comes a time in every man's life where he simply has to decide that he is calling or folding. I mean, so many people are here on business and they got a big overhead of expenses. How do they sit there and feel they have the time to watch this fucking 2-hour lifeless tank that results in a fold 95% of the time anyway? Phil Locke once got mad at me for tanking. I was playing 10-20-40, I'd say about 14 years ago, at the Bellagio in a game that had Phil Locke, Antonio Sfondiari, and Brian Rast. Now, I don't think Brian was drinking, but Phil and Antonio were. And I wasn't in a pot for a while until finally the under the gun limped, Brian limped, I raised with pocket tens, under the gun limp raised, and then Brian, who had over limped, he limp over 4-bet, limp raised, limping over limp bet, 4-bet, limp raised, the limp raiser. Now, I think this is just a clear fold in an instant, but I was like so confused that I actually thought about this for a little bit, and I really didn't think it was that long. But either way, drunken Phil Locke was not having it and started getting angry about how everyone is such a genius now. It's like watching paint dry. And that part I understand, because sometimes it's not just the length of the time that tilts people when someone is tanking. It's the bodily manner with which they do it. 30 seconds may only be 30 seconds, but time is just relative. So 30 seconds of some stupid, stoic, boring, needy European player or someone with a resting bitch face like myself is going to feel a lot longer than if it's someone whose table manner is just a bit more animated. So anyway, back to present day. I had table changed off my game, and when I sat down at the new table, there was a hand in progress. This European player had bet $100, and then this young Asian guy check raised the river to 280. So this is a $180 raise. So, okay, that matters. But this, oh my God, it was like a jury deliberating a very ambiguous murder case. And I can't call time because I wasn't dealt in. Now, this was going on between seat 6 and seat 8, and I was joining the game in seat 1, so I was on the other side of the table. And as this tank was going on, I did something that I know I'm not allowed to do, but I don't care because it still was not as ridiculous as what I was watching. I said to the 3 or 4 players on my side of the table, I said to them, and not that softly, I'm like, you guys are allowed to call clock, you know. Hint, hint. Will one of you just call fucking time already on this asshole? This is ridiculous! I mean, they all looked at me and they laughed a little bit, but no one would do it! And I know I'm not allowed to do this. There's no way I'm allowed to try and influence someone else to try and influence the game, speed up the game by telling them to call time on someone else, but I was getting beside myself. How much fucking time do you need to make up your mind when you're facing a $180 check raise on the river? And guess what? He folded. Ah, what a surprise twist ending that was. Who could have predicted that? Now, it's not that anyone owes the game a call after taking so long, but look, unless it's some huge fish who we all want to see fold so that he doesn't stack off in a huge pot, we all just want to see the money go in. Or at least the money go in. Whatever the bet is, we want to see it called. We've waited all this time. We want to see a showdown. So, alright, so I'm already angry, and I haven't even been dealt in yet. And this game was pretty boring, too, so I get into my last orbit. I wanted to play until about 4 p.m., but that just wasn't going to happen today. It was 3:30, and I just could not take another 30 minutes of this. So I got, 3 or 4 hands left. And then the young Asian reg, who had French fry hair, by the way, and had just won that war against the Euro, he opens to 15 in under the gun 1, I think. It folded to me, and I have pocket queen, so I make it 50. It gets back to French fry, and French fry starts thinking, and he's tanking, and he's peering around the dealer, asking to see my stack, so I show him. He had about 12 or 1,300, and I covered him by a small figure. And this is already a legitimate tank. And I came very close to calling clock at this point in the hand. And keep in mind, this is only a 3-bet to 50. We have just gotten started here, but he was already taking an excessive amount of time. And calling time there would not have been just to troll him. It would have been a legitimate fucking thing to do. So he calls. And the flop is queen, jack, deuce, rainbow. All right. I guess that was worth the wait. He checks immediately. Okay, thank you. Never really know what to do when my hand is this huge. All I know is losing him is a disaster. So I bet $25, which is 1/4 pot. And now he starts tanking again. And he's tanking. And he's tanking. And holy shit, I'm just hoping this hand ends sometime before the main event tournament starts. And he raises to 125. Huh. Well, that'll do. And I almost felt obligated to play a little faster because of how slow he was playing. I mean, we don't have all fucking day here. So I give it 10 or 20 seconds and I call. There's my money card, jack of hearts. I got a full house. 2 hearts out there now as well. Pot is 350. And he starts tanking again. I'm not making up any of this. I am not overstating 20 or 30 seconds. This was going on and on and on. And this is now the 3rd time he's doing this. And this hand is far from over still. And he bets 250 into 350. I do the same thing. Don't take that long. And I call. The river is a king. The hearts miss. Not happy about that card, because unless it gave him a straight, now it's just that much easier for him to think I have pocket kings, and at this point, I have no fucking clue what this guy has. I just hope it's queen jack or king jack, could be pocket twos, whatever it is, I don't even give a shit. I just hope I don't die of old age before I get to go all in. And now he's tanking again. This is the 4th time. And each tank was getting longer than the last one. If you thought the pre-flop was bad, I mean, by now we're into The Godfather Part 3. Underrated movie, by the way. Anyway, so he tanks some more and now bets 300 into 850. Very disappointing you didn't jam, because that would at least end the hand. He's got like 500 left. Maybe a little more. I give it a few more beats, da-da-da. And I go all in, and he snap calls. Ha! Yeah, right. He began tanking for now the ultimate crescendo on the river. This is now a 5th time. And like always, this went on and on and on and longer than the last one. 5 times we're up to. Now look, I know sometimes we really do get stuck for a decision. And when it happens, it's generally on the river or facing an all-in at some other time. I mean, I know. It does happen once in a while where it's excruciating to make a decision because you feel like you're going to hate yourself no matter what you do. But that's only for one decision. That's one time you go into the tank. One decision. And most of the time, even when we're thinking, I feel like we know what we're going to do within 10 seconds anyway. But you might take a little more time, run back the tape, double check your work, maybe even triple check, and then act. But this, come on. You cannot tank 5 times in one hand. This was hands down the longest hand I had ever seen or partaken in. There was a reg on my left who plays there every day. He's sitting there. And on the river, he walked away from the table for a substantial amount of time. Probably needed the bathroom or something, or who knows. Maybe he wanted to finish building his house with his bare hands. He comes back, and this fucking French fry asshole is still thinking, and no one has called time yet! And it was on the push, too. We got a dealer standing behind us, looking like he's being crucified watching this. It's just unbelievable. And the longer this goes on, he's probably not going to call. So finally, someone calls time. Then we get a floor man over. Oh, did he have sufficient time to act? No, he only needs a haircut by the time this hand is over. But no, he's not had sufficient time to act. So we start the 60-second countdown. He runs it all the way down to 0, and he folds. Tipped the dealer $2. This really nice young Chinese lady with a thick accent. And then I looked up at the board. It has the list and all the games, and it also shows the rotation of the tables that the dealers are pushing to. And after I cashed out, I went to where she would be, and I gave her a couple more dollars because that was ridiculous. I mean, every once in a while, like I said, we need to tank in a hand sometimes. Once. At one juncture. 5 times. I mean, it's just like, I can't even fucking think. I can't even think straight. I don't know who these people are, but it's like, maybe you just shouldn't be doing this if this is the kind of time you need to make a fucking decision. I mean, he made 7 decisions throughout the hand, and 5 of them took forever. His opening raise to 15 pre was fast, and his checking the flop out of position to the pre-flop 3-better, that was fast too. That was it. This hand took at least 12 minutes. At least! So after that, I felt like I had to play a little longer just because time got sucked into this black hole permanently, and now I can never get it back. Then this hand comes up. Well, not exactly. Well, that Euro who I mentioned before, who took a month to fold to the $180 river check raise, well, he's on my right. And on 2 occasions, we already played a hand, blind versus blind. He raised the small blind both times. Both times I called the big blind. And both times I did not put any more in post flop, and he won. So now here we are a third time. It gets to him, and he says, "Do you want to chop?" I said to him, "Do I want to chop?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like waiting for him to start smiling, but he's not. So I pause a moment. I'm like, so you don't chop when you have a good hand, but you do when you don't? Like, are you joking? I really thought that he was going to reveal that he's joking at some point, but no, he was not joking at all. He didn't flinch. He was offering a chop. And I said, no, play ball. And he immediately gave me the walk. Holy God. I mean, that is just... Who does that? Who fucking does that? I mean, I could see a miserable OMC doing that, but... Ugh. And this was also after he was in another hand where he tried to bet $21. And we see that once in a while, 2-5. It's usually from an amateur that doesn't realize we're betting in $5 increments only, except for all-ins. So you have to figure this is some internet player. And I'm sure it was an innocent, honest mistake, but I said to him, we're not playing online. There's no mouse. And a few people laughed. But that's the thing, though. Why is it when internet players who sit there and click all day in an instant, multi-tabling 55 tables a day in and day out, why is it when they come to a live game and now have only one hand to play, now suddenly their brain slows down with the speed of the game? Now they can't think at all. It's mystifying to me. If you remember that time, Tony G went completely apeshit on Andrew Roble on the PokerStars.net big game. I mean, it was hilarious because, everything Tony G says is hilarious, but he was saying the same thing. He's like, they decide in an instant all day long, but they get out here in the real world and they freeze up. But you know something? While all this was going on, while I was at the table and wanting to commit Harry Carry because of all the tanking, there was this woman in the game, middle-aged, dirty blonde, and she was laughing when I was trolling the guys for tanking. Then she puts on her white KN95 mask, and then I realized, wait a minute. You may remember in episode 1, this looks like a hell of a lot like the woman who called me a misogynist for calling the clock on her 1 year ago during the 2024 World Series of Poker. I wasn't 100%, but I was at least 90%, and that number was steadily rising every few minutes. Because she wore a white KN95 mask at the table last year, too. So what are the chances that this isn't the same woman? So now I was thinking about what to do, while the tanks were going on. What do I do? Do I say something to her? If so, what do I say? I was going over the scenarios, and one of them was, hey, I think I recognize you. I think you called me a misogynist last year for calling time on you. And if she says, no, that wasn't me, well, then it's just, okay, now it's just a funny moment and tell a funny little story. But if it is her, well, then now what? Because as much as I like arguing players on the table once they become really stupid and provocative, I really didn't feel like reopening that can of worms at the table. So I decided I'll just bite my tongue and keep my mouth shut. But as more time went on, yeah, that is 100% her. And holy shit, this is just too much. So I'm finally racking up. Played on that table for an hour and probably saw no more than 20 hands. But as I'm racking up, I see that she starts racking up too because she's also looking for a table change. Well, I mean, I'm leaving, but she's trying to change. And this game was out in the cash game overflow section where they usually play tournaments. So I go back into the main room, I cash out, and she's standing by the podium to get her table change. And now that she's by herself, basically, now I just cannot resist the drama. Because I could not believe not just the fact that her and I wound up on the same table again, but the fact that as soon as I got there, before I even realized it was her, I was already getting incredibly irritated at how long people were taking to act and was telling the table to call time when I 100% was completely out of line for doing so. I mean, how cosmic was all of this? The universe really has just a mesmerizing sense of humor at times. So I went up to her, and she's very tall, by the way, at least 5'10", and I'm 5'7", generously. I said to her, totally polite, I said, hi. She's like, hi. I'm like, do you remember me? She's like, yes, I think we've played together. I said, yeah. I was like, you called me a misogynist last year for calling time on you. Do you remember that? She's laughing. She's like, oh, yes. She's like, I do remember that. She's like, that was a long time ago. I'm thinking, well, it was only a year. I said, okay, well, I just want you to know, as you saw just now, that had nothing to do with you being a woman. I call time on anybody who's been taking way too much time for how much money they've been bet into, okay? And then this other guy who was on a 5'10" table right next to us, he's overhearing all this. Then he chimes in and says, he's like, but yeah, especially when it's women. And then she just walked away. She was kind of walking away, trying to inch away the whole time I was talking to her once she realized it was me. And I said, hey, nice seeing you again, after her back was turned. And she didn't get upset or anything. I mean, she was just kind of laughing through the whole thing. But yeah, she didn't want to talk to me about this at all. And that was fine. I didn't need to have a conversation about it. I just wanted to tell her face to face. I guess you have to figure there's a more than fair chance she was a little embarrassed about having me face her about this. But either way, wow. I mean, was that some poetic justice or what? To join the table, not even realize this woman is the same one that called me a misogynist, and then be getting so mad left and right at these dumbass men tanking nonstop, starting with before I was even dealt into the game, and telling other people, hey, just call time already. This is absurd. Unbelievable. You know, for all we know, she was just playing dumb and recognized me right away. I mean, only she knows. But it's entirely possible that, she recognized me right away, and, maybe she thought I recognized her right away. I mean, all the possibilities are endless. It's possible she didn't recognize me at all. I mean, it took me a few minutes to realize it was her. But, seeing as she probably knows a misogynist when she sees one, I mean, maybe she did pick me out right away. But she probably thinks that about a lot of men, so who knows? Could have been anything. But wow. That was, quite quite an interesting interaction to have. All these interactions. Tanking forever in a fucking day, facing a $180 check raise. It makes me sick just to think about it, but okay, whatever. All right, that'll do for today. I'll be back soon with some interesting hand histories from this past week. So, we'll see you next time.